Samuel Lehman Young Jr., November 17, 1944, January 3, 1966, was a civil rights and voting rights activist who was murdered for trying to desegregate a whites-only restroom. Young was an enlisted service member in the United States Navy, where he served for 2 years before being medically discharged. Young was an active member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, and the leader of the Tuskegee Institute Advancement League. Young was the first African-American university student to be murdered in the United States due to his actions in support of the civil rights movement. 3 days after his death, SNCC became the first civil rights organization in the United States to oppose the Vietnam War, partly on the grounds that, like Young, innocent civilians should not face deadly violence. Early life. Young was born on November 17, 1944, in Tuskegee, Alabama. His father, Samuel Young Sr., was an occupational therapist, and his mother was a local schoolteacher. From the age of 12 to 14, from 1956 to 1958, Young attended Cornwall Academy, in Massachusetts. He graduated from Tuskegee Institute High School in 1962, after which he joined the United States Navy. Young served in the United States Navy from 1962 until July 1964, when he was given a medical discharge as a result of having to have one of his kidneys removed. Upon his discharge from the Navy, Young began attending the Tuskegee Institute in 1965 as a political science student. Civil rights activism. Young became involved in the civil rights movement during his first semester at the Tuskegee Institute. He participated in the Selma to Montgomery protest march in Montgomery, Alabama, against the Bloody Sunday incident in March 1965. Young joined the SNCC and the Tuskegee Institute for Advancement League, TIAL, a local civil rights student group formed with the help of the SNCC. He soon started helping to lead protests by the organizations against civil rights infractions in Alabama. Then, in April 1965, he went to Mississippi and worked with Unita Blackwell and Fannie Lou Hamer to help the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party get black voters registered. In the summer of 1965, Young led Tuskegee Institute students in challenging overt discrimination in Tuskegee. The group attempted to enter white restaurants, held rallies, and picketed establishments that refused to hire black people. Several times they attempted to attend segregated white churches and were brutally beaten twice. In September 1965, Young was arrested and jailed after attempting to drive a group of African Americans to get registered to vote in Lee County, Alabama. Young continued his efforts to get blacks registered to vote in Macon County, Alabama 4 months after being released from jail, up until his death. Young was shot in the face, under the left eye, by Marvin Segrest, a 68-year-old white gas station attendant at a Standard Oil station in Tuskegee, Alabama, on January 3, 1966. The shooting came after a verbal altercation between Young and the attendant about Young using the whites-only bathroom. Young became the first black college student to be murdered for his actions in support of the civil rights movement. Samuel Young Sr. said of his son's death, "This is an era of social revolution. In such revolutions, individuals sacrifice their lives." Trial. On January 4, 1966, Segrest was arrested, but released on $20,000 bond. He was indicted for murder in the second degree and tried on December 7. The trial was moved from Macon County, where blacks outnumbered whites by a 2-1 margin, to Lee County. He was found not guilty by an all-white jury the next day. His acquittal sparked outraged protests in Tuskegee. Tributes. In January 1966, a protest was staged in front of the White House by Leslie Bayless, with a coffin with a picture of Young attached to it. The protest was staged to call out the white supremacy-caused shooting of Young in Alabama. Police forcibly removed the casket and arrested Bayless for disorderly conduct. SNCC reaction. After Young's death, the SNCC decided to publicly join the opposition to United States involvement in the Vietnam War. stating officially, on January 6, 1966, that the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee has a right and a responsibility to dissent with United States foreign policy on any issue when it sees fit. The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee now states its opposition to United States involvement in Vietnam on these grounds. We believe the United States government has been deceptive in its claims of concern for the freedom of the Vietnamese people, just as the government has been deceptive in claiming concern for the freedom of colored people in such other countries as the Dominican Republic, the Congo, South Africa, Rhodesia, and in the United States itself. The murder of Samuel Younge in Tuskegee, Alabama, is no different than the murder of peasants in Vietnam, for both Younge and the Vietnamese sought, and are seeking, to secure the rights guaranteed them by law. In each case, the United States government bears a great part of the responsibility for these deaths. Samuel Younge was murdered because United States law is not being enforced. Vietnamese are murdered because the United States is pursuing an aggressive policy in violation of international law. Press release, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. See also List of unsolved murders. References. External links: SNCC Digital Gateway, Murder of Sammy Younge, and SNCC's Statement on Vietnam digital documentary website created by the SNCC Legacy Project and Duke University, telling the story of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee and grassroots organizing from the inside out. Civil Rights Division notice to close file, containing the detailed description of the crime and follow-up 2011 FBI statement on Younge's murder.